Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Beach FM, and my pleasure to welcome once again the chair of the Waikanae Community Board, James Westbury. Good morning to you, James.
Oh, good morning. How's it going there?
Well, it's okay with me. I'm more worried about you because I don't know if we're going to be talking much about the Community Board. I believe that in your other, wearing your other hat of being a leading pharmacist, in a community which, let's face it, has quite a proportion of older people that have been very much in people's thoughts recently. I imagine you're a very busy man.
Oh, indeed. COVID-19 represents a real challenge for our community with regards to having a highly vulnerable population in particular. Like if people look at the statistics on the news and what's been presented internationally, our population's highly vulnerable to infection, and making sure that we're putting in place, the appropriate safety measures, ensuring that people are 2 metres apart, restricting the number of people coming in our shop, for example. As a pharmacist, it's been incredibly challenging. I've never, to be honest, I don't want to live through another event like this. And again, in my career, I hope I don't see. It's trying to make sure that we can maintain service, maintain the quality of service, and actually make sure that we remain open. One of the challenges we've had is splitting our staff and our team in two. So each team will work 10 hours per day for 3 days in a row, and then every second Sunday. So we are open on Sundays now, which is good, but it's certainly quite hard because you've got reduced staff spread over a greater period of time.
Is that to mitigate the risk, James? Is in case one team goes down, you've got another team that can take over if necessary? Exactly.
So the whole idea of that is ensuring that we've got business continuity in place so we can continue to support our community. It is highly likely that the virus eventually will take a hold on our community at some stage, so we need to make sure we've got in place processes that enable us to maintain our service and, if any positive identification was made that if somebody was infected, that we can continue on as a business without interrupting service.
Indeed. And I believe that you've been spending much of your time recently dispensing the flu vaccine.
I have indeed. I think just off the top of my head today, I've done about 250 vaccinations today for aged residential care clients. These are people in rest time and hospital level care, so these are our most vulnerable. It's been identified by the government that these are a high priority group of people, and given the statistics and what we've seen nationally with some aged residential care clients being affected and they're having impacted by the death toll, it's really important that we provide these people with a little bit of a back pocket insurance against influenza. That would just be absolutely catastrophic if the COVID-19 and influenza strikes the community.
So it would compound, you believe, if they both struck at the same time?
Oh, and it would be catastrophic, to be honest. If we get a tremendous influenza pandemic this year too, hopefully with the social distancing, that would be minimised. Yeah. But it's really important, and I need to really stress anybody over 65, if you've got the opportunity, and it doesn't matter if I'm supplying it or anybody's supplying the vaccine, make sure you take up that opportunity to get vaccinated.
I believe that the idea behind the mass vaccination, or as much as possible with the over 65s, was to free up the hospital facilities. Because, of course, the flu itself is quite a serious disease, and people die from that as well, don't they?
Oh, they do indeed. Unfortunately, the death rate from COVID-19 is nearly 10 times as bad as flu. So if we put it at that perspective, it's, flu causes tremendous strain on our health system on its own. And that's, if you think of the numbers, it's very small. COVID-19 is 10 times worse than that. So we need to really make sure we can insulate our community from the effect of flu in this instance.
You said before that you believe that we would have COVID-19 in our community. Do you think that's an inevitability or not?
It depends how the changing from level 4 to level 3 goes. I do believe that it will start circulating. I don't think we'll ever eliminate it unless we completely close our borders and remain in a level 4 lockdown for a continuous period of time, and I'm not sure that's completely sustainable. it will go through our community. It's just about at what rate and pace. So if the rate and pace can be controlled, that means our health system can manage it. It's when it gets out of control that we've got real issues like what happened in Italy.
And as a health professional, how do you think it has been handled so far by the authorities?
In terms of, I think they've done a reasonable job, actually, given the information that they've got to hand. I think they've made some really credible decisions, particularly, I think, acting early on a lockdown. I think that's probably been our saving grace. I think if we had left it another week, we might be in a very different set of circumstances as we are now. So hopefully with the reducing numbers and the reduction in infection, we might be able to see some movement, and the Prime Minister, we should be able to move to a level 3. It's what that looks like is going to be what's interesting.
And as a business person, I'm sure you can recognise and possibly empathise with the calls from many in the business community to open up to normal activity as soon as possible. I mean, you can understand that people's livelihoods are at risk here, but it's a difficult balance, isn't it, this one?
And you know what, to be honest, I'm glad it's a decision I don't have to make in terms of balancing human lives against where the economic consequences are. There is going to be a tipping point, unfortunately, where the economic and, the life gained through the actions that we're putting in place versus the life lost as a consequence after from economic poverty, reduction in longevity of life, for example, kick in. So it's a really difficult one, and I don't envy the person that's making that decision, to be honest.
James, just have to thank you and your team. You're literally in the front line, all the health professionals doing an amazing job at the moment, and I just can't wait till the time we can get back and talk about what's happening with the Waikanae Community Board. But obviously these are most unusual times. Thank you so much for your service, and thank you for your time this morning.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Beach FM, locals talking to locals.